Hey, everybody, this is Stu Smith along with Jeff Nichols, and we are talking the Tactical Fitness Report. And this one is a special podcast on rumors and rumor control. And we have seen many of them throughout our years, heard them ourselves, and probably even thought of a few of them whenever we were in the recruit process. So we're going to kind of help dispel some of the things that we hear and what we think Buds is and what we think Buds isn't, and go from there. So I'll let you start this one off, Jeff. I know you always have a good one that we always talk about, and let's start off with number one.
Yeah, as we try to organize our thoughts a little bit and kind of eliminating issues as they come. Like the first issue that I typically engage with my candidates about is that it's kind of around the recruiting process and the recruiter and everything. And then it kind of stems into Buds. So one of those things is I just urge all of you to, it's certainly you can start off your inquiry with us and we can direct you to a certain way. But just know that, like, if you have questions and you go see a recruiter, at no point is there a commitment, right? If you feel pressured or whatever, like that's on the recruiter. But there is the process to get into the Navy or Army or Marine Corps is actually pretty extensive. You've got to go through the medical process. You've got to swear in, and it's a lot of signatures. Just know that you can't accomplish that at a recruiter's depot. It's not possible. So going to a recruiter and asking questions is a good idea, right? They may not have the answers, and we can help steer you to some of those clear answers, and so we don't run into some of these rumors. And then that's the second piece to that is that know that my suggestion is have a couple questions, write them down. Prepare yourself, go into a recruiter, and it doesn't matter what the questions are, and they may not even necessarily pertain to being SEALs or Buds, but just, well, how does this process work, right? They should be able to tell you clearly what those steps are. They should be able to just have those in mind, write them down, and ask those questions, inform yourself. And then in that piece, if you decide to enlist or get your commission, whatever it is, that contract position, you have some control. It's in every step of the way, they have to be able to answer the question, like, why am I signing this? What does this mean? What is an SGLI? What is all these sort of things? Ask the question because that's their job, and you don't want it to not have those questions answered when you're already at boot camp going, man, this isn't what I expected. You are in control of that contract to a certain degree. So take control of it. And that's kind of really the two pieces I have on the recruiter piece.
Yeah, the recruiter piece, I tell you what, one of my favorite ones that I've seen all the time, and this one happens, typically when you walk into a recruiter station, there are other services that are also there. Like you have a Marine, you have a Navy guy, you have an Army guy, sometimes the Air Force, usually all share the same building or sometimes even the same office space, and they just have a cubicle in each of them. And I've seen it many times, seen it asked in emails many times about they find the Marine, and the Marine tells them, oh yeah, you can go to Buds, as a Marine. Right. And it doesn't really quite tell you the whole story, how that works. Like yes, you can go join the Marine Corps. And if you want to be 18 years old and join the Marine Corps and transfer into Buds, it is possible. It is just not a paved route to do so. So it's a little bit harder. So first of all, getting out of the Marine Corps to go join the Navy is almost impossible. It's hard to do an inter-service transfer. Right? Those things are very difficult because 9 times out of 10, the Marines have a job for you to do and to finish under that 4-year contract that you signed up for. Then, if you want to join the Navy, you have to get out of the Marine Corps, join the Navy, go talk to a recruiter, and start that whole process again at age 22 with 4 years of active duty experience under your belt. And sometimes, depending on your rank when you got out, that year group may be full for spec war. And so you might not be able to do it. So it is not the easy route to get to Buds. And, I talk about the easy route. There's no easy route through Buds, but there definitely is an easy route to buds. And that is, to know what you're doing, go there in shape, ace the PST on the first try. And the road is paved for you to get to boot camp, get to pre-buds, get to buds orientation, start first phase, and now you're rolling in the system.
Yep. Yeah. And then the best way to make that transition is, like we're talking about, is inform yourself. Right? And I know it is the big conundrum of like, there's not a lot of information out there. Like there's the advertisements for our military is obscure at best. It makes it look sexy, and it can be in some right, but it is the recruiter's job to answer those questions. If you feel like that recruiter is not answering your questions, just like in the military, you can escalate through their chain of command. Like if you sit down and go, this person isn't answering any of my questions, and again, let's say you've scored well on an ASVAB, or you don't have a criminal record, whatever it is, there should be a reason behind it. Escalate it. Go, hey, I want to talk to your chief or your whatever. I want to talk to your lieutenant. I want to understand what's going on. Now that's what I did. And I was fortunate that I had a recruiter that's very receptive, and that's because I knew what I wanted.
Right. And they have access to the Spec War mentor.
For sure they do. Each state has a couple of them.
Yeah. And in fact, if you can kind of bypass that, and at least just get the number or talk to the Spec War mentor in your region, that's probably going to be the better source of information for you, especially if you have a guy that's maybe new to the whole recruiting cycle and maybe not familiar with the whole process of the SEAL Challenge and how that enlisted program works. But they're also an asset for you as well.
Yeah. And that's to my point, is you don't want to show up and be unorganized and complain.
Yeah.
Do as much homework as you can online, find out what you need to do, in terms of like understand as much process as you can. Come with questions, be organized, because you're going to make their job easier and they'll be more willing to help. That's not even a military thing. That's just a human nature thing. Empower yourself with as much information as you can, present it and go, I need the answer to these questions before I'm willing to commit as an adult.
Right.
And then that's a good place.
Yeah. Another part of the recruiting phase is that when you get there and you're about to sign into the delayed entry program, you have to pick a rating to which is your job. It could be corpsman, could be whatever. But as soon as you ace that PST, you are now going to be an SO, special operations rating pipeline, right? Now I've seen some places that will kind of bypass that, like it's okay. Yeah, we know you're in the SEAL pipeline. That's all you want to do. You just show us you passed the the PST the first time, and we'll bypass that, and you're an SO now, type of thing. So just depends. Like I said, what the problem that I've seen a lot is people pick, let's say, corpsman, which is a great rating. It's a great job, great training. But they show up there for their first PST, and then they fail the PST, or they don't pass with competitive standards to get into the draft. And then they just kind of hover there, and they're there, week after week after week. And you're just getting tested every week in the PST. And if you're not training to get better at the PST, you're not going to advance into that next level. And eventually you'll reach a point where they say, okay, your delayed entry program is up. You're going to go be a corpsman.
Yep.
And I've seen that happen to many people. Now, the other thing that you could do at that moment, and I've seen this a few times, but it pisses everybody off, is that you say, no, I'm not going. I'm going to get in better shape, take another 6 months.
Yep.
And do that. So you actually get out, you almost like disenroll from the delayed entry program. You're no longer part of the system. You're not getting screened by the mentor anymore. You have to almost like go through the whole process again.
Yeah.
Don't waste people's time.
So to the point of everything that we've talked about is be patient, prepare yourself especially if you're 18.
Yes.
Take that year or two and really, really prepare yourself, because you'll find out that there is this hesitancy to enlist or try to get your commission. You're like, when's the right time? Well, there is no perfect time, but the right way to go about it is spend some real time, not 2 weeks, not 6 weeks, not 8 weeks. Spend 6 months, a year, year and a half preparing for that, so you don't waste your own time, number one. You're not going to waste anyone else's time, because if you show up, just like Stu was saying, and you crush your first PST, then you just go. I mean,
that's right, man.
That's where, for whatever reason, that's where I ended up. My first PST, I was like, I had been preparing for a year in college after my undergrad while I was in grad school. That's what I was going to do. And that's what I did. And it worked out well for me. So I encourage people to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to think about it. The recruiter wants to be able to push the easy button for every candidate that comes through there.
Yes.
And if you make their job easy by acing that PST, getting through MEPS, doing everything that you're supposed to do, it is like clockwork for that recruiter, and you are going to work your way through the recruiting process really quickly. I mean, we have guys probably just hanging out for about 2 months, once they're in delayed entry program before they get a date, and they're gone.
Yeah.
But they've spent the previous year preparing for that first PST, at the recruiter's office or the local pool where the mentor is.
Yep.
You got to treat it like a job interview. You got to be fully prepared and ready to roll on that job interview and show them your best. You don't want to be in that failure group on day one on your job interview.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's where most people are, and they just kind of languish there.
Right.
So, anything else on the recruiting process?
No, I think, people will complain about it, but that's because they didn't prepare.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself. Be an adult. Ask the questions. People get shotgunned and are surprised because they didn't ask the questions ahead of time.
Right. How about the next phase? Let's talk about, talk anything about boot camp?
Here, one of the things just worth mentioning, but it's not really a rumor, but, there is this concern that, hey, I did all this preparation, so I get the buds, I show up to boot camp, I got almost detrained.
Yeah.
And then so the community is well aware of that. Now, there has been some segregation now between the Fleet Navy folks and the NSW, Diver, SWIC, SEAL, EOD groups, combat swimmer groups. And that's why when you leave boot camp and you go to buds, there is a period of time before you actually phase up for first phase. So there is a concern, but understand that if you bring your training up to a certain level, your body will reacquire that ability given time. And there is enough time, because you will get some detraining in boot camp. You certainly will. But when you get out, you'll get it back. So just don't worry about that too much.
Yeah. I tell people 2 things before they go to boot camp. 1, do your damnedest not to get sick, because that one's a hard one to.
So that was my big issue. Yeah.
Yeah. If you wash your hands every day, I mean, don't even touch your face.
Yeah.
Because you're touching stuff all day. Don't even touch your face until after you washed your hands or anything. Just try to stay healthy. That's one big hurdle that you can avoid. Having to get over pneumonia or something. Something like that. The other one is treat boot camp like a taper. So as you're getting ready for boot camp, keep ramping up your training, and you're, borderline peaking, you're pushing pretty hard, but then just use boot camp as a taper. And like I said, you will be detraining somewhat, and you'll get a little bit out of shape. But if you mentally think about it as this is my taper before I go into my A game again, it's a better way to psychologically handle the detraining, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. So now they're at boot camp. They finish boot camp. Now they go to pre-buds, which is kind of like the SOA school now, which is really good because back in the day, it was not like that.
No.
I mean, you'd have to go if you were a bosun's mate. You'd have to go to the bosun mate A school for 6 to 8 weeks, and then they shift you to buds.
Yep.
You know, after you became a bosun's mate trained member of the Navy.
Yep.
But now it's great. I mean, I think it's a great system that they've done. Long overdue. I think we were talking about this in the 90s. You know, it should have been. Yeah, that is basically run by some very smart trainers, and they are going to get you back into bud shape.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to swim with fins. You're going to lift some weights. You're going to do a lot of calisthenics. I think they do have an elevated PST that you have to do before you leave there. So instead of 500-yard swim, you have to swim 1,000 with fins, pull-up, push-up, sit-ups. And I can't remember if it's a 3-mile run or a 4-mile run, just to kind of prepare you for the Buds 4-mile timed run test. I think it's 3-mile run. I have it written down somewhere. I just don't recall.
Right, for the PST, yeah. There, and that's you're right. The whole system is improved now. That's why I was a PR parachute rigger before they crammed the SO rate. I was in Pensacola for like that 9 weeks over Christmas break time. That allowed me to get back because I got really sick in camp. So the system is built for success now. That process now it's just up to the person to succeed.
Yeah. All right. So now you're at Buds, and you check in at Buds, and you're going to go through what's called Buds orientation, which is typically 3 to 4 weeks, I guess. Maybe PTRR when you first.
It kind of depends when you show up.
Yeah. Your PTRR when you show up, it's kind of like a waiting phase. Sometimes you'll get some injured guys that are rolled that are in PTRR, and you kind of join them, and then you go into Buds orientation, and then you go in, which is just really basic. You're going to take the PST probably one last time, and then top it off with maybe a 4-mile run and a 1-mile swim, just to see if you hit some of the standards. I think you have to do an O course in under a certain time. And then they move you on to the next phase, which is first phase. There are a lot of rumors with first phase.
Yep. That's the one. Yeah, and we're certainly either guys started these rumors while they're in the teams just to mess with people, or it came from this disgruntled, in my opinion. And this is kind of like the piece where I'm going to just chime in a bit. This is one of the number ones for me to just be aware of this. So for any of you that are reading comments and various SEAL websites and SEAL Instagram pages or Facebook, there always seems to be a handful of people, whether they're trolls or not, are going, well, I was this, and I knew a guy that he was singled out. And I'll just understand this. And this is very easy for me to say from like an ethical standpoint. Buds is the most ethically democratic process that I've ever been a part of. If you are singled out, and it happens, it's because you are not performing the standard that is expected of you, or your character was in question, or you did or said something that specifically highlighted you as a potential risk, right? A character risk, a personality risk, right? So everyone that I know that I've from my Buds class and people that I've got 2 guys in my pre-training right now that are both, they first came to me, I was in Buds and I got dropped and it wasn't, and I'm like, all right, listen, just stop right there. Like, there is nothing unfair about a stopwatch. There is nothing unfair about the standard that I went through. So understand that there is nothing unfair about Buds. If you say something stupid, they're going to single you out. Yeah. If you do something stupid, they're going to single you out. And it's not the action of them singling you out. It's what you did that created that reaction. So don't think for a second because you heard somebody in a comments blog, or you had a cousin or a distant friend that had a brother that tried and failed and someone singled him out because of race, religion, creed, whatever. It's crap, and there is nothing unethical or non-democratic about Buds.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%. I've seen it to a point where people do get singled out, but you're exactly right. There was a reason, and there is a standard that those instructors are are set to uphold, and, you know, they're going to serve with you in a couple of years, you know, perhaps, you know, once they're done with their training at Buds, they're going to be back in the teams, and they're going to be, you know, with some of their students, you know, in a platoon, you know, so they have a certain standard that they're upholding that is a written standard. I mean, there's no gray area in these standards.
Right.
And, you know, like you said, there's nothing unfair about a stopwatch.
Right.
You know, or, you know, a certain standard. And unfortunately, yeah, you're right. There are some bad attitudes out there that occur. And, you know, it's human. I understand that. You know, you're pissed off about not making it. But it really, what I've really enjoyed seeing is, and I get some of the Buds rollbacks and guys that quit at Buds and, you know, back in the program that we're at. And, you know, the first thing they tell me is, yeah, I was at Buds. I quit during Hell Week. You know, I was 18 years old and I was stupid. You know, and, you know, looking back at it, that's what they're saying. You know, I'm not putting words in their mouth. You know, they're telling me that. And I said, that's the way to do it. Just own up to it. You know, and if you do that, you have a better chance of getting back. Yes. You know, you just act like a man and own it, and then they will appreciate that, and you will get a second chance. And second chances are hard these days. It used to be a easy process, but now with all the people that are getting to Buds now, they're having bigger classes graduate, so now your groups are full. So if you can't make it in your year group, you know, when you first go through Buds, there's going to be a lot of people in your year group that make it. And then 3 years later or 2 years later, when you try again, they may not want you in Buds because that year group is now full of Spec War people and they have too many of them. So so like the military timeline, the fiscal year begins October 1st. That's the timeline. That's when I joined the military. There were 4,000 people, so I was the first group of divisions in my boot camp. There's 4,000 people in all the different divisions. There's 4,000 of them. 3 of us screened for Buds. All 3 of us made it, though all 3 of us were in the same Buds class. There was only 3 out of 4,000 people. Wow. Now there are hundreds every couple of weeks, if I'm not misunderstanding. No, 200 to 300 in some of those pre-Buds classes. We had 3. So Andy Irabito, who owns Half Face Blades, was I didn't know at the time, me and another guy who's still active. There was 3 of us. And it was weird, right? Wow. You know, like now there's hundreds. So that is why you're less likely, it's not impossible because that's one of those questions. It's less likely for someone who quit to get a quick opportunity. You might have to wait some years. Right. Or if you ever even get the chance again, and your PST scores better be good. And they better be better than when you first they better be better than when you first applied. Because they want to see failure and then you bouncing back from failure stronger. Yes. Because that speaks volumes of your character and, you know, the type of person you are, that because we're all going to fail. Yeah. But if you can come back stronger from that failure, you know, like I said, it speaks volumes for who you are and the type of people they want. For sure. How about this? So our first phase, one of the very first tests that you will be given is that 50-meter underwater swim. Yep. All right. A lot of rumors around that one. Yeah, we can let's lump that in there because they're all pretty underwater, not tying, and then like the drown proofing where, you know, you bob for the mask and your arms are tied kind of right behind your back. Yeah. So we can kind of lump it all together about breath holding. If you have the aerobic capacity to do well on the PST, that means, you know, obviously you're going to be winded and running, but if you can have that cardiac output, okay, and you don't stress yourself out so much. Nobody in my Buds class failed the 50 meter underwater. Nobody in my Buds class failed the underwater or the drown proofing either. Like bobbing for the masks. I mean, it's just because it's just understand, like especially in PTR, it's taught. Right, you're taught and you practice, and people will quit then. Yeah. We didn't practice the 50 meter. We practiced the mechanics. Like, okay, hey, here's the deal. Get deep quick.
do your somersault deep quick. Because then the question is like, well, I get upside down and get water in my throat. Yep, you do.
Yeah, you got to suck that up.
Everybody does. It doesn't make someone special. Like, just know if someone's not saying it, everybody, when you get upside down in the water, you're going to get water. That's why waterboarding is an effective means of interrogation. You're waterboard yourself for a split second. Just swallow it.
Yep.
Literally swallow the water.
Yep.
It's going to burn, but swallow it. Who cares? And then, so the mechanics are taught, right? Just like the mechanics of drown proofing are taught. Like, they're not – understand these things have been around since the 60s, right? They've proven that they work. The observation of the cadre and the medical staff is second to none. These guys aren't like hanging out on the pool side. Right? They're in the water. There's divers in the water. There's for every student that's in the water, you have 2 to 3 instructors per student. Not when they're just swimming. You know, I'm not talking to you.
When they're testing, yeah.
It's well orchestrated. Like, you'll see this efficient machine that's going to blow your mind as a student if you can pay attention and go, oh my God, like, they have thought of everything.
Yeah.
This is not the first rodeo for these people. And you don't just show up and go, I got my BUD/S instructor hat on. I did a Hell Week just as an assistant. Like, I was at the teams, I'd done a couple deployments. Hell Week was going through, hey, we need a couple extra hands. We need you to just come by, work a shift, like a 4-hour shift from midnight to 4 a.m. I was like, yeah, I can do that. They're like, your job isn't to really anything. You're an observer. You're there to just help the cadre manage. Like, you don't even have to interact with the students. Because even when you're a BUD/S instructor, you got to go through a whole lot of curriculum just to understand all the rules and the safety. And if you need courses, if you need to be a dive supervisor, you have to go to dive soup school before they even let you work in second phase. So anyway, that long-winded thing is like, just understand that they're a concern, but don't let it deviate from your training. Don't focus on it. You don't need to do breath holding your backyard porch, backyard, just backyard pool.
Yeah, you know what? And unfortunately, and it's sad when I read these stories, but if you do a Google search, there are kids that are in the delayed entry pipeline, pre-BUD/S pipeline, that kill themselves every year practicing underwater swims by themselves.
Yeah.
Or breath holds by themselves. Yeah. And they even have a lifeguard, a couple yards away from them. It's just something that unfortunately happens too often. And nobody fails that test. Nobody failed that in my BUD/S class. We only had one guy out of probably by 80 when we did the drown proofing not make the drown proofing test. Yeah. And he changed his mind. It was really more of a like, I can't do this type of thing more than a failure. Yeah. But yeah, that is one of those things that you are taught in PTRR and BUD/S orientation. And it's a quick learning curve. You can also take your buddies down to the pool on the weekend and practice it. That's what we would do. We go to the base pool and just practice drown proofing. You had one buddy that wasn't drown proofing. You had one buddy that was, and you just take turns going through all the phases. And underwater knot tying, same thing.
Yeah. The only difficulty for that is going to be if you're really, really lean, or you have probably you. I'm a sinker.
I was a big sinker. Yeah.
So there is a certain I can't just take a big gulp and hold my breath and float.
Yeah.
About 9 out of 10 people in BUD/S will be able to do that. For those of you that can't, just dolphin kick a little bit. You just kind of porpoise, and like they told me, just kind of dolphin kick in a very tight circle.
Yep, that's all I did.
You just stay within this imaginary 5-foot ring or whatever it was. And I just dolphin kicked in a circle for a couple minutes, and just as long as you didn't completely submerge, just my hair was sticking out, and I just dolphin kick under the water, and I big kick, big gulp, and I just do that for a couple minutes and just relax. Yeah, that's the big thing.
I would say definitely the floating was the gut check of that test if you're lean. But it's also, the bouncing is the gut check if you're positive.
Yes.
You have some guys that can't.
Let it all out.
You got to let it all out, and that gets uncomfortable.
Yeah, I never had to. Yeah.
Yeah, I could do push-ups on the bottom of a pool. So I mean, it was just.
I could walk. To this day, I could on a pretty much a full breath hold. I can walk on the bottom of the pool.
Wow. Yeah, I can't do that now. I have to exhale everything for me to drop. Yeah. So if I get a full chest of air, I can kind of float and hover close to the top. But yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, breath holds. I always get, people trying to practice 4 to 5 minutes of breath holds for buds. That's potentially dangerous for one. And we're not free divers.
No.
We're just, even under the scuba, even when you get to second phase, that pool comp test is
you'll have a diver when you're underwater. You will have a diver assigned to you. An actual either Navy diver or a SEAL dive suit. And he'll just be there on a regulator. He'll have another regulator in his hand because he will grab the back of your neck and force it in your mouth if you show any signs of struggle. Yeah. And the process is brilliant.
Yeah.
So, like I said, if you have the capacity to hold your breath for 30 or 40 seconds sitting in on your bed, you're good.
Yeah. Another thing too about that 50-meter underwater swim is if you can walk from one end of the pool to the other and back on a breath hold, you have the ability to pass that test.
Yes, you do.
Because it's really about 35, 40 seconds max.
If you're a really good swimmer too, right? You're gonna do it at 50 meter. You're gonna do it in 30 seconds if you're really good swimmer.
Yeah, and it's all gliding. The last thing you want to do is stroke, and take you 20 strokes to get across the pool. It should only take you about 4 or 5 arm pulls and kicks to get you across the pool.
Yeah, and this is just to be super clear. Neither of us are encouraging you to do this, but if you're going to, because people are going to kind of, I hate to say, probably do some form of it anyway. What I prefer to do, and this is a swimming technique. This is so. Do your 25 meters on top of the water in a freestyle and try to hold your breath for the length. Because if you watch the Olympics, the 50-meter or sprint,
they don't even breathe.
You're going to do one breath or none. Yeah. I never did a single breath. My breath was off the blocks, and I swam 50.
Full sprint.
So full effort. If you can do that, right, and then you just slow it down a bit.
Yep.
You can swim a stroke 25 meters without taking a breath.
Yep.
Because you're far less risk of shallow water blackout.
Yes. Yeah. And the way we do it, we do a workout we call over-unders, where you can't do it without a buddy. You have to have a buddy. And you're swimming on top, freestyle, and then your buddy's under you. And he's holding his breath, and you're swimming freestyle on top of him, and then you switch on the way back.
You just roll.
Yep. Switch on the way back. That's a fun one. And
for sure.
That way you're always watching somebody right on top of you. And I tell you what, it's not easy keeping up with the underwater swimmer when you're doing freestyle too. I mean, you're going to get winded.
A good glide, it's tough.
You're going to get. I mean, a submarine is faster underwater than it is on the surface.
Yeah, that's why in the Olympics, it's been an international competition. I remember when I was swimming competitively. This is the late '90s. They had not yet discovered that the underwater dolphin kick at 35-degree angle through the water is faster. Arms overhead dolphin kick is faster than a freestyle.
Wow.
So that's why they put up the 25,
little red markers.
Right?
Yeah.
Because before, the Russians figured it out. They were off. They swim the entire length underwater, dolphin kick, breathe on the turn, go back down. They would never do a single stroke. I remember swimming in the Midwest Regional Swim Meet and the National Swim Meet in Fort Lauderdale, and people didn't even do strokes.
Wow.
And that would have been in 1996. And so now that's my point is that if you get efficient underwater, you can go. I mean, especially if you achieve overhead position, like you would entry dive like a diver, right? Pursing your hands together.
Yep.
And your ears pinned to your biceps and then cant at a 35, 40-degree angle, and then just dolphin through the water. It's fast.
Yeah.
It's super fast.
Yeah. In fact, I teach that off the wall every time.
Yep.
When you're doing the combat swimmer stroke, because that will be the fastest you will ever be in that 500-yard swim, as every turnaround you kick yourself off about 10 yards off the wall, and you're going to turn a 500-yard swim into about a 250, 300-yard swim just by kicking off the wall efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. My little secret, I'm not telling you to do it, but this is how I did it. The swims we did every day in Buds, on the open water swims, like whatever we did every Monday or every Wednesday, whatever it was. I didn't use my arms. I just dolphin kicked the whole thing underwater.
Yeah, a lot of guys do that.
I mean, my recovery. So I'd be like this, and I would do one stroke to peak, and then I would go back under the water, and I would just dolphin kick the whole way.
Yeah, that's basically what we did too. We did the same thing, and the only time we used our arms was just to regulate our breathing.
Yep.
So every time I needed to come up for a breathe, I'd just come up for breath. I'd use your arms. Yeah, it's all legs.
It is. So especially with fins.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, yeah. So that don't freak out about breath holding. It's not worth it. Point of all this conversation is time is better spent focusing on technique and preparation for other aspects.
Right. Hey, here's kind of a funny one. I hear this one is that they have to drown you and they bring you back to life before you can graduate.
Yeah. Funny enough, I won't get the whole story, but I passed out on life-saving. I won't get into there are some things in Buds that they make it very difficult for certain individuals to see how you respond. Now, they're going to do that for everyone, but at the point where I was at, I was very jovial in a very professional way with certain cadre because of like I said, I had to do pull-ups with weight vests on. And I was a good swimmer, really good swimmer. So they would kind of screw with me a little bit.
Right.
And so they kind of teamed up on me on the life saving because I was 190 pounds, was a good swimmer, and they beat the heck out of me. And I remember passing out. They weren't trying to hurt me, but they were seeing if I could struggle. And I remember that the next thing I know, I'm on the deck and I'm kind of like spitting up water, and they're all laughing, and I'm kind of like, I'm good. And they're like, yeah, he's good, man. He's handling it. That's it. Like, and I had another one to go. I had a fifth one to do, aggressive swimmer. And they're like, nope, you got them both at once. Because two instructors just to screw with me. And they're like, nope, Nichols is good. He's out. He's done. Doesn't do his fifth. Nice. So just know that in the same thing I know you mentioned before, like you can be the gray man and get through. For me, it was important to just, when I was good at something, not be cocky, but show them. Like be very prideful in a very ethical way to go, you know what? I can do this, and I can, because just like you said earlier, these men that you're putting you through Buds, at one capacity or another in your future, are probably going to serve with. Show them your strengths. Okay, don't be afraid to show them your strengths.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a saying that I really love. I saw it written down on the board over at the Naval Academy the other day, and it really kind of rings true for the mentality you need going to Buds, and that is exceeding the standard is the standard. Mm-hmm. We all have standards that we have to get, but you focusing on getting better than those standards, that's your new standard.
Yep. Yeah, no, and because the standards that are published are clearly defined. So do better.
Right. Let's see. What's the next one? There's some good ones out there. I have an article called Rumor Control. It's kind of an old article that I wrote a while back, but what's another one here? That's a good one. Yeah,
there's so many.
Yeah, I hear that they tie you up and throw you in the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic.
No, not so much. There is some real regulated craziness that happens at Buds, but it's by design. Just know that, and this is not giving up any secrets, but every day at Buds, there's a purpose for the cadre and for the institution. And they've got to continue to hit those milestones. And that's where it's like it never gets easier, because each and every day there's a new milestone that the community, the Buds community specifically, they've got to get you all to, because of all these years of history, hitting each and every one of these milestones as close as you can ensures at the point of graduation that you're going to have a group of tightly knit, effective, efficient young SEALs that can be trained.
Right.
That's the deal. So each and every day, people say, what's the hardest thing about buds? I'm like, it's 27 weeks long.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what was your, like, the 3 days before graduation, like, we had to put out. Like, it wasn't like, good job, guys, you made it. You're like, hey, you got an O course. You got your final time 4 mile run.
Yeah.
You make it or you don't. Did anybody fail it? No. Everyone was super motivated and going, man, I can finally see the light. And we crushed it. That was probably all of our best runs.
Yeah.
It doesn't ever let up. So you can't either.
Yeah. And when you get out of there, you're the new guy. You still got stuff to learn.
Yep.
It doesn't stop.
Yep. So, and those are like, there are a bunch of them. There's the silly ones, like you got to raise a puppy or a kitten and kill it. That's the silliness of it.
I've heard that one good. Yeah.
We could go on and on about.
How about age waivers? Yeah,
there we go.
That's a good one.
There's a clearly defined age.
Right.
Can you, if you're a reservist or something, like your dad's a 3-star admiral, there might be some fudge in there. But I had someone message me last week. It's like, hey, I'm 25 years old. I've always wanted to do this. I'm thinking about going to do this and this. And I was like, hey, are you aware of the age waiver? And he's like, oh, there's an age limit? And I'm like, yeah. I go, when do you turn 26? And he's like, I turned 26 in 4 months. I'm like, well, then you better get your butt going.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's my request, and this is kind of my last soapbox speech. There's a million reasons why I joined the military, specifically the BUD. Wanted to be a SEAL and went to BUDS. The biggest thing for me is that, don't know why, but what I didn't want to be was a 35 or a 40 or a 26 or whatever it is, year-old man and regret not doing it. Like I always tell people, and this is my favorite quote certainly someone has said it before, but I say it all the time and I give myself credit for it, is the sting of failure, okay, is not nearly as bad as the sting of regret. Like that for me is something that I couldn't have just swallowed. Yeah. You'll get past it probably, but I was not, and I still live my life like that. I don't want to deal with regret. I can deal with failure, but I'm not going to deal with regret.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. Yeah, I've seen age waivers go pretty high, even into the early 30s. But you got to know that they are a case-by-case basis, yep. and it typically goes through some high-level approval.
Yes.
Like at least the CO of BUDS is going to approve it. Like usually the way it works is the officer, community manager, or the community manager will the detailer will go to the BUDS CO and say, here we have a couple candidates that need age waivers. What do you think? And depending on who the CO is and the times and the needs of the Navy, those and the skills that those guys bring to the table. Because believe me, if you're asking for an age waiver and you spent 5 to 8 or 9 years doing something else, that something else better be special.
Yeah.
I got a guy right now that played 8 years of pro ball, played baseball, pitcher on like 4 different. He got his way up to AAA and just never could crack it into the big leagues. And now he's 27, right? Borderline age limit right there. Yeah. And he's making that decision. He wants to put it all into one basket and go for it. And he brings something unique to the table. Now, you obviously don't have to be a pro athlete, but I've seen guys get it that were, had their master's degree, had job experience, had started their own business. Yeah. I've seen a couple that were just, high school teachers, that had a skill of, being a teacher that, maybe a foreign language background, something like that. Yeah. That, like I said, you're bringing something to the table. When you're asking for a waiver, there better be something special to bring to the table. And by the way, those PST scores
better be super high,
off the charts. There can be no gray area on your performance.
No, we had one of my still friend and such a good dude. He's still active. He's just finishing up his CO billet at one of the units. He was played hockey at University of Minnesota as a goalie.
Yeah, that's good.
High level hockey.
Yeah.
Then he got his master's degree. I'm not sure where, but he was teaching mathematics at Johns Hopkins.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Then he went to OCS. I mean, and I was an outlier on certain things, but that son of a bitch, he hard as woodpecker lips, man. Like he and is such a good dude to this day and a great officer in the team still. You got to put it out there, and that's okay. That should not be us saying this to frighten you.
Yeah.
These things are meant to, I don't even want to say motivate. We've got to establish that this is not a fitness program. This is a life. And get in. If you're going to get in, give it your all. If not, maybe it's not for you.
Right. Yeah. How about this one? I get it. You probably got an email that you get from people that are, I'm thinking about becoming a SEAL or joining the Army. Right. And usually when I read that, it's like the first sentence, and I'm just like, well, do you really need my help? What are you asking? You're so right. It can't be, I'm going to do this and I fall back on something else. You really have to want to do this as your number one career choice. And unfortunately, a lot of people who maybe come from the fleet, they can say either one of two things. That either is a great motivator to never freaking quit because they know what the fleet is like, or two, they had a pretty comfortable job, sitting in an office, not being cold, wet, and sandy at that moment. And, they can go back to that. So that's sometimes, having a fallback plan when you're at Buds is
can either help you or hurt you.
Yeah. If you know what, life is like on the outside. For me, I went through as the officer, and I remember back then they had Surface Warfare Officer School, West Coast, right there at Coronado, Little Creek, or at the Amphib base. And so we would jog by there every day to go to the chow hall. I saw these big, Surface Warfare Officers pin, big pin, their warfare signet sitting on the wall, is like, and it was so funny because I'd see all my buddies
every day on the way to chow. Every single day.
You run by there and you just say, okay, it could be worse. Right. Yeah. Even when it was sucking for you, it could be worse. And it was so funny because a lot of my classmates from the academy were there, and they used to, be in their khakis, sipping their coffee, watching us run by, and they'd say, ooh, don't do that.
Here's
it's so funny.
You run by that, because just prior to that, where the BOQ is, that's where the used to be. It's not anymore. It's moved it next to the old chow hall. That's where the reserve unit had the big blue trident out front for reserve unit, little sign. And the SWO was just beyond that. And I remember running by that every single day and thinking that is what I want. And if you're running by that thing going, oh, that's my refuge, or I don't, you know what I mean? Like, understand right away that you're going to have some hesitancy. But for me, it's super motivating to see other people have what I wanted. I really wanted to be a part of that community. And there was, if my father had passed away during Buds or whatever, that still wouldn't have deterred me, because my dad would have come out of the grave and shook the hell out of me if I had quit. Fortunately, and I know other guys, sick family members, or here's the deal too. Like, here's the one who talk about you can't be married, and I understand, like, this is certainly not marriage counseling. I'm not at all the person to be giving that advice. Certainly can be married and dating, all those sort of things, and it's only a distraction if you allow it to be, right?
True.
Again, I'm not giving dating advice. The community is tough. The training is difficult. You have someone there to help you, support you, great. If not, if you don't, it's a 6-month evolution where you really kind of have to be selfish, and that's okay.
Yeah,
it's worth it. The community is worth it, and someone that's going to stand by you, they're worth it, right? If they're not going to stand by you, It might be tough, but it's not, wasn't it, if your relationship can't survive buds, it most certainly isn't going to survive a deployment.
Yeah. Or life.
Or life, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So,
And by the way, I'm not knocking surface warfare, by the way.
right. Yeah, right.
I mean, I love all my surface warfare buddies, and they do an incredible job with what they do, and Navy would not be the Navy without them. So
Agreed.
last thing I want to do is ever it was just something I did not want to do, and that would have been my next thing I would have had to do
for sure
if I'd have quit buds. So I just use that as an example.
For sure.
That's another one that, people say you can't be married and go to buds and be a SEAL. But I mean, there are a lot of great marriages in spec war, and there's a lot of divorces in spec war. I mean, but you know what, in regular life, that's the way it is too.
It's not that different than, than regular life. It's really, and that's the last piece that I really got to say on this. This is the first piece of advice I give anybody, and I kind of see how they respond. So I just tell them to surround themselves with good people. If they're like, what does that mean? Then I'm like, okay, you need to get new friends. Because when you show up to buds or anything, you can use buds as a microcosm of a life in general too, but find people that you're like, they're motivated, they're focused. Surround yourself with them. Like people, find like people. If you're at buds and you're like, now if you're super introverted, got it. Maybe that. If you aren't getting along, I saw like the meme today has the buffalo falling off the cliff, right? The bunch of buffalo falling off the cliffs, and then everyone thinks the buffalo running the other way is crazy until they go off the cliff, right? So I think of it as like there's a bunch of guys running away from the cliff. Like 20% of the guys are running away from the cliff. The rest, right? Be part of that 20 running away from the cliff.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's a good analogy.
Surround yourself with good people.
Yeah. Yeah. I that was one thing that I thought was really helpful with my buds experience is that from the Naval Academy, we sent 20 guys to go to buds, and we all trained together, all knew each other. I think that's huge. Having a familiar face while you're at buds is very helpful. And all 20 of us made it too. I mean, we were 20 for 20 that year. And we expect that, but it doesn't normally happen every year, but we expect it. And the thing is that once you start knowing people that have made it through, it is no longer impossible. Right. Because a lot of people think that buds is just impossible and it's not going to happen for you. And, if you start thinking that way, it is. But you start seeing people that have made it and hearing their stories about how they made it, it's no longer impossible. It's still going to be hard. Like I said, Jeff and I were saying a couple of podcasts ago that we could give you the day-to-day schedule of buds, and it does not matter. It's still going to suck, and it's still going to be hard, and you're going to be challenged like no other challenge you ever had in your life. But
yeah, for sure.
But it's not impossible.
Yep. Yeah. We just gotta, we could go on and on, but that's really, that's the gist of the things that really I think will matter about rumors and such. So
you done?
Yeah, I think I got some other guys I gotta attend to for sure. But
all right. I think that's plenty. That is. People ask me these rumors all the time. We can always say, hey, go to our podcast and you'll see us talking about rumors.
For sure. Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's awesome. With some other topics and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. You know what? I got one the other day that someone suggested that you and I do. They've been watching us go, and they talk about the officer route and the enlisted route and the jobs at the teams.
We'll hit that out of the park then.
I think that'd be a good one. That'd be a real good one. All right.
All right,
see you, Jeff. Thank you.
Yep.